Hey, it's Steve Riley. Welcome to this episode of Great Practice, Great Life. And today we have an incredibly unique guest for you, and that is Chris Barron. So, Chris, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Steve. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Well, it's delightful to have you here. Most people know you as the front man for the Spin Doctors, but you are an incredibly resilient, talented performer. You've done a lot of things over your career. So I've got a question. How do you define yourself? How do you see yourself as a performer and a creator?
I, I don't want to be pretentious, but I think if I could be remembered any way or thought of any way, I'd like to be thought of as a poet, honestly. I think you know, if there's anything that I've ever done that's gonna be around for a long time, it's the songs that I've written. And I think I'm a pretty decent composer, but um I really am proud of, the lyrics that I've written. I've worked really hard on writing, and I've been pretty artistic my whole life. So, I just, if I had to define myself anyway, I'd like to be thought of as a poet and as a just a creative person.
You usually have a lot of people collaborating, supporting you, coaching you, and supporting you. What are some of the keys from your perspective for success and longevity in career?
Well, I couldn't agree more. I think life is like a team sport, and there's no single person can achieve as much as a group of people can, and even people who seem to be, working solo really generally have, some kind of people supporting them and working with them. But I like to think, I realized, I'm a lead singer in a band, right? And so I'm part of a a larger group of people that are musicians, but singer songwriters are kind of different because if you're just not just a musician, but if you are a musician like a sideman, that's what we call it, then you can kind of go from gig to gig and find the gig that pays the best, or is in a place that you want to be, or whatever your priorities are. um but when you're a singer and a songwriter, you have to find people to play your music. So you're basically like you're doing this creative thing, and you want to kind of harness the talents of other people. And I think a lot of different kinds of businesses are the sort of the same way. So early on, I kind of started to think of of a band as like a pirate ship, and be like, stay with me here, basically, like, you are sort of the pirate captain, and you have to kinda keep this crew together. So you have to kinda, like, look at your crew and, the other people you wanna work with, and figure out what they want, and convince them that you are steering the ship in the direction of what they want. Because as much as you think you are sort of the, star of the movie that you're in, everybody else in the movie thinks that they are the star of that movie, and you might be like the captain of like the ship that you're on, but nobody's going to want to be on that ship unless they can see themselves in like the starring role. So they might be like the person at the helm or whatever, somebody climbing up in the sails, but they still want to see themselves as like, the camera's on them, and they're like up in the sail, like looking out at the ocean, thinking about, how they're going to get what they want. So, you always have to like with musicians, you're looking at other musicians, and some of them want to, and I'm sure lawyers are very similar. Some of them, some people want to be part of something that's prestigious. Some people want money. Some people are motivated by like social goals, and they just want to work with people that they really like a lot. So you have to kind of like convince everybody that you want to work with, that you know how to steer the ship toward the thing that they are after. And meanwhile, you have to also make it so that the ship is going where you need to go as well. I hope that makes sense.
I have a tough question for you. It's one about resilience. And one of the tragic things that you've overcome is the vocal paralysis. Could you talk to our audience a little bit about what happened? Because you were
Yeah.
you were a rock star. Things are going great. Things are awesome. And then boom.
Yeah,
Would you mind
actually,
talking about that?
yeah, it's happened to me twice actually. I have had like twice I've had this like vocal paralysis where I like I had a paralysis of my vocal cord. And both times it was my right vocal cord. It happened for the first time in the early 2000s, and then it happened again in 2015. And I could only whisper basically. And it's like a 50-50 chance that my voice would ever come back. um so yeah, that was tough. It's a tough. um you're a singer and you lose your voice, right? So um I think the way I got through that, you just kind of have to wait and see, for one thing, if your voice comes back. And I also think that both times, honestly, like, I really gave myself permission to be, I don't know if I can drop an F-bomb, but I gave myself permission to be just really fucked up.
If you were giving advice to a young musician or a young lawyer about building a long-term successful career, what would you tell them?
I would say that, um, your reputation is everything. Help people, if you, like, lift other people up, be free, with help and advice. Be honest, like, don't rip people off. Never, ever lie. Um And, and like I said, there may be people out there who are more talented than you. But I've watched a lot of talented people just fall by the wayside because they don't know how to work. And chances are, you can outwork um most people because most people don't want to work very hard. And but that being said, you know, family and friends, and you got to have a life too, because what is any of this for if you don't actually, have a life? So, don't cheat, you know, on people, and be like, if you have kids, be the best parent that you can be. And honestly, like, just try to be like, try to try to live good life. And if you can get up in the morning and like look in the mirror, and like you feel like you're just like working away at something that isn't like devouring your soul, you're ahead of most people in this life.
Well, that's fantastic because I want to ask you what a great life looks like to you at this point in your career. And I think you just defined it.
Yeah,
So,
man. Except like you need a Lamborghini and a Ferrari and really big house. No, I'm just kidding.
you said the exact opposite of all that, right?
Yeah, no, no, it's about your interior life. If you can be just mindful and truthful, and you know, you got real love in your life and people you can really trust, um, that only comes with time, then you really got something.
Fantastic. Chris, any last words of advice before we wrap up?
Yeah, actually, more than advice, I just like to say that lawyers get a really bad rap. And I like, some of my favorite people in the world are lawyers. Some of the people who have helped me out the most um, in this life are lawyers. I don't think, it's easy to find a subset of people in the world who have more potential to do good in this world than lawyers. I think that, that the opposite is also true, unfortunately. But before we quit, I just like to say I have a lot of respect for lawyers. I always felt like I could have been a pretty good lawyer. Um, uh, if I hadn't ended up being a singer, like I don't think it would have been too bad to end up being a lawyer. I think it's really interesting, the philosophy, the ethics, and the law itself. So my hats off to to all of you guys, and I wish you all the best.